Good morning, buenos días. Welcome back to another episode of Cafecito y Croquetas, brought to you by Stay Tranquilo and H&CO. Today, we are joined by Anabella Murillo. I don't know exactly your full story, so I want to definitely use today to be able to tell your story, talk about your experience in the space. Pero thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Kat, for making the introduction, as always. And thank you to our partners over at H&Co. So, Anabella, please, the mic is yours. Tell us where you're from, a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kat, also for connecting me with Andre and Stay Tranquilo here at the podcast. I was born and raised in Venezuela. So I grew up there, like normal, tropical Caribbean girl. And I moved to the States about 18 years ago. So when I graduated high school, then I went to law school there. And I just started working in the tax industry down in Venezuela. But in 2007, the situation got a little bit complicated, as we know. And my family decided to move to the States. So by 2008, I was already here in Miami, starting probably like a new career, like something I had no clue what I was going to do. But it turned out that I started in this, tax trust industry, financial industry. And I've been there for the past 18 years.
That's amazing. And I definitely want to touch on that, right? Yeah. Kind of your experience in that space. I feel like there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. But before that, I do want to kind of touch on that transition from Venezuela, to the States. In 2007, 2008, obviously, like you mentioned, things already were transitioning, right? And now, obviously, a lot has happened in the last, month or so. Yeah. Specifically here between us and Venezuela, and just globally, the impact that occurred. But tell me a little bit about that time, right? What was Venezuela like in early, mid-2000s? And how was that process of being able to even make it into the United States? Because now it's that much more difficult to get here.
Yes, it was difficult, to be honest. My family had moved to the States back in 1999. So my dad decided he was coming back to the U.S. He was trained here in the U.S. My brothers were born here in the U.S. in the 70s. So they basically went back to Venezuela, and I was born in Venezuela.
Okay.
So my dad had the opportunity to come back. And by 1999, when Chavez got elected, he's like, I'm not staying. So everyone's like, what? Like, I'm staying, and I stayed.
Wow.
I thought that I was going to, fight for my country, go to law school, and all these dreams you have when you're a student and everything, right? So my dad moved to Miami in 1999, and my mom also moved first to Washington, D.C., also in 1999. One of my brothers moved to L.A., and then I stayed with my oldest brother in Caracas.
Wow.
2 years passed, and he moved to the U.S. as well. So I stayed by myself in Caracas while I was still going to law school.
Oh my God.
And working. And that's it. I mean, I just stayed there. So for me, I was the opposite of everyone there. First of all, my family was here. Right. Not there, which is not, it's not common in Venezuela, like to live alone by yourself and have not your family not being there for you, right? So that was difficult, and it was different, right? My entire family was here, so I used to come a lot, like on, holidays and whatever, right? Even weekends if I could, but it was difficult because I was all alone by myself. I had a couple, family members, like some uncles and aunts, but that's it. In the end, everybody came to Miami during that process. So my aunt came, my cousins came, my uncle came. So I was literally the only one in Venezuela.
That's insane.
Insane. Yeah. I know, it's crazy. I just think about it. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
So it was a process because things were getting a little bit more complicated by every day. So, lack of food and milk and things that you were not able to find. And then kidnapping was, something. And then I was living by myself, which made me more vulnerable. So it was a little bit complicated. So by 2007, my dad called me. He's like, hey, you're going to have a green card soon. Because I was under 21, he did all the process while I was living in Venezuela. He was living in Miami. And because he was a U.S. green card holder at the moment, because of my brothers that were born in the U.S., he's like, I already did this process for you, whether you like it or not. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. So he called me one day. He's like, hey, I'm becoming a U.S. citizen. Now your situation is going to change because you're not the daughter of a U.S. green card. You're the daughter of a U.S. citizen. So that changed all my process. And that went really fast. Back in the days, the situation was not like today, of course. And I think it worked a little. I mean, we still had an embassy in Caracas by that time. Afterwards, it closed, right? But so my dad's like, hey, you're going to have a green card anytime soon. So you have to sit down and think, what are you going to do? I'm like, okay. So I did all my process. You have to do like lab work, a lot of things you have to do to become a green card holder. And they gave me my package in the embassy, and I just did my first entrance in 2007 as a U.S. green card holder to Miami.
Wow.
They take you to a little room. You have to sign some documents. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like your first official stamp in Miami as a U.S. person.
Wow. No, that's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think something interesting, obviously, one, it's difficult that your whole family leaves, right? And obviously you made a personal choice to stay in that process. But I think that's the interesting part, right?
Yeah,
That's your home, right? It's not that easy to just say,
it's not.
I want to leave, right? Obviously, you understand maybe the political climate and things are changing, right? Like
Yeah.
you mentioned limited resources.
Mm-hmm.
Those are obviously telltale signs to say, maybe I should get out, but it's not that easy because that is your home, right? Your friends are there.
No.
Obviously, at that point for you, your family is already out, but you still have that element of like being home. Like we were just talking offline.
But you belong there.
Right.
That's where you were born. That's what you breathe, that's what you smell. It's like, that's where you're from.
Absolutely.
It's difficult I literally packed my 2 bags and just left.
Yeah.
And I left my apartment, everything there. And I just 2 bags and that's it. I remember
Wow.
all my friends from law school, took me to the airport, at 6 a.m. in the morning. We literally party all night and we just went straight to the airport. And I remember myself with my carry-on, that's it. I'm like, wow, this is my life in just 2 suitcases.
And just like that.
And just like
right?
that. Mhm.
It's like from one moment to the next.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think it's not easy for who lives the country, but I also think it's not easy for who stays in the country.
Oh, absolutely.
Both are
It's
tough
like
decisions.
pick and choose.
Yes.
What
Both
you
are
want.
very tough decisions, to be
And
honest.
I think it helped that your father was willing
I know,
to.
absolutely. That's probably the only reason I
Yeah,
just came, because my
exactly.
entire family was here, and I was, very alone.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things happen, and I couldn't call anyone.
Yeah.
It's things happen, and then okay, who am I going to call? So I realized no, I have to go where my family is. I have to follow them in a way, and then I'll figure it out through the process, because you don't have everything figured out at 25, 26 years old, right?
No,
so,
absolutely not.
So yeah, we're still figuring probably things out, right?
Exactly.
So it's at 24, you're like, oh, whatever, what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I thought it was the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to be here. Of course, when I got here, financial crisis.
Yeah, that's true.
As we know.
Yes, yep.
And then, well, yes, everything went down there. But yeah, so it was a tough decision, but I think it was the best one for sure.
Definitely. I think now when you
Same.
look back, I'm sure it's easier to sit
And
with yourself.
now
in
it's
that
funny
decision.
because now I'm probably the lucky one, because I have my entire family here. And then the rest of the people that came, they don't necessarily have their entire family here.
Right.
So when I was back in Venezuela, I was not the lucky one. I had no family members. Now I'm here and I have my entire family members. So
Yeah.
it's wow, it's weird.
That is
it's
weird.
an immigration story that it's not common.
At all.
As
at
we
all.
know.
My girlfriend's family is from Colombia. Pretty much her whole mom's side of the family
Yeah.
is still in Colombia.
Exacto.
Abuela, primas, aunts,
It's
everybody.
not easy.
Everybody's still over there, and they've thought about what does that transition, but it's not that easy. It's what are they going to come to do, right?
Where?
Because then
Exactly.
it's they're already older, right? They have established a life over there. And Colombia is a little bit different, obviously, than the political climate than Venezuela.
differences,
Vamos
yeah.
a ver, what happens there. But the reality is, when you've built your life somewhere, you could see the vision of maybe it being the right decision to leave to a place like America, but it's not. It's
never
easier
know.
said than done,
I
right?
don't
And you
think you
don't
never
really know,
know.
because some people come here and then, unfortunately, for whatever reason, they may struggle, right? And then they want to go
Yes,
back home
yes.
because it's what's comfortable and it's what they know. So it's almost like picking and choosing what do you really want to deal with, and
you
juggling
never know
that.
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can have something in your mind, okay, I'm going
Right.
to do this or do that. And guess what? Everything will change.
Absolutely. And I think that is the story of Latinos,
Immigrants.
right? And immigrants. They don't ever know really what they're
No.
going to do when they come here, but they just know that they have to leave, right? I come from a similar situation with my grandparents from Cuba, right? And understanding we don't have a life here anymore. As much as they didn't want to leave. I remember to the day my grandmother passed away, it was all about how much she loved Cuba and how Cuba was her home.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
she wanted.
She must be proud of you doing this.
Oh, of
No?
course. I hope so.
Claro.
I hope so. But she, I know how good their life was over there until eventually it wasn't. And you hear people to this day, right? Obviously, there's a ton of Cubans, there's a ton of Venezuelans here in Miami, Puerto Ricans, Colombians,
Same.
right? You got a little bit of everything, but
good
there's
mix.
that common denominator that they left for a better life here in Americas. And we've seen the success of so many influential people now here, in, not only in Miami, but in the States, that are immigrants, right? That came here, leaving their whole life behind, probably had a very good life where they were, right?
Yes.
And then basically had to start a brand new life over here, right? Some people came with different situations, right? Because they maybe prepped ahead of time and were able to kind of almost soften the blow of that type of transition. But reality is, and my grandfather was one of those people, he had to basically start a whole new life.
Yes.
But he figured it out.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. No.
Because that's what immigrants do.
Exactly.
They figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you come into the States around 24, 25, right?
Yeah, around.
What was what was that thought process of like what you were going to do? You were studying to become a lawyer, right?
Yeah, so I graduated from law school down in Venezuela.
Okay.
And I started a master in tax. And it's 2 years, that master, right? So in the mid of the master, I moved to the States. That was another.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I have to do this, whatever, because you have a specific timing when you get the green card that you have to come into the States.
Right.
So I had to do it. Anyway, when you come here, you stay here for a while because they send you like your social security numbers and you have to be here to receive it, blah, blah, blah. So first shock is coming to the US and moving into my father's house. Living by myself for the past,
you gotta move back
I don't know, 8 years. I'm like, oh, okay. So I have to, here we go. So I had nothing, literally, like just my, my brain, like that's it.
And your maleta.
And my maleta. So anyway, I came here and I'm like, okay, what is it that I'm going to do? So I'm like, I'll just move with my dad. And that's what I did. So I moved with my dad. He's married. And I have an old younger sister and brother. So they were kids at the moment. They were going to school here in Miami. So I felt so weird because I'm like, okay, I've been living by myself. I've been doing all my life by myself for the past 7 or 8 years. And here I am back to zero at my dad's house with nothing. And okay, how I'm going to start this? Because I was very grateful to be there, of course, because I had the opportunity to also connect with him and with the family. That was the great part of it, right? But on the other side, it's like, okay, I need to figure it out. Like, I can't stay here forever. Like, they're helping me, that's fine, but I'm not going to stay here for years. I need to know what I'm going to do. Exactly. It's like a temporary solution, right? But you have to start thinking, okay, now what? Now what? Now what? Thank God my two brothers were here, and they were very good at, like, advising me on what to do. Like, you should do this or you should do that. Like, look for a job or anyway, they were like my financial counselors at the moment, which I appreciate a lot. And I had like I knew what I was standing at, right? But I didn't know what to do. So that was shocking for me, coming back from Venezuela to a house with kids, a dog, and my dad.
Completely different
and
dynamic.
my dad, and then my dad's wife, who's not my mom. So it's like, it was difficult.
Absolutely.
Everything was, all the process was very, very difficult.
Yeah. No, and then from there, you said that your brothers gave you a lot of advice as to what they do. So
yes.
Did you end up getting a master's here in the States?
No,
or?
that was one of the things I started as soon as I came. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start the process. I have a very good friend. He advised me and he said, you know what? You can do an LLM in UF up in Gainesville. And then we'll figure it out from there. And if you want to go to law school again, you can do a transfer from your LLM to your EAD, whatever. That can take like 3 years, right? And again, financial crisis, 2007. No credit, no nothing. Like, I had no clue, right? I'm new. So I do all the process to go to UF in Gainesville, and I got admitted to UF for an LLM. And that same week, somebody introduced me to someone in Miami in the community of the trust and estate community. And I ended up having like 3 interviews, and they offered me a job.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. I'm like with my dad sitting down, like, what should I do? Like, I have a job offer in the financial crisis.
For having nothing to all of a sudden having options?
Exactly. So, and then I have the option to go back to school, do an LLM, which I had to request student loans and everything, of course, because I had no money. And my dad and I were like, so I asked my brother, I'm like, what should I do? And we were like, you know what? We're in the financial crisis. You should take the job. Because if someone has money now through, a job, it's like, you're lucky. So that's what I did. So I took the job offer and I started working in a trust company, which is a global trust company. They offer different, services in the financial industry. And that's what I did. So I started from zero there, giving support to a lot of Latin American clients. They needed someone like with legal background and that could support them on Latin American clients mainly. So that's how it started, right? Like being the support of those directors there that were dealing with clients in Latin America, all the countries in Latin America, including Venezuela.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
Considering, I guess, like,
I
do I go back to school? Do I get a job? You talk
I
about
know.
financial crisis, all these things, right? And it's like, you didn't even, like you mentioned before, you didn't even know where this was going to end up, and all of a
No,
sudden
no.
you're using something that you learned with your law, with your law degree
Yeah.
over in
The
Venezuela,
logic. Yeah.
the international component, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you're very familiar with, considering
Yes.
that you just did that, and already being able to apply a
Yeah.
lot of what
And I
you've
think
done.
also knowing, I guess, the right people, the right connections at the right time.
For sure.
Because when I moved here, I was like, I was coming from a big audit firm, Ernst& Young, and I just came with some reference, under my arm. I'm like, well, I mean, this can give me some
Yeah.
idea of where to go. So I went and had different interviews, and some of my, former bosses, anyway, connected me to people here in Miami.
Wow.
And that was, I think, the good, thing, because they connect me to people here who are also Latinos, and they're always, doing the same
Exactly.
thing as us, whatever. And that's how I got this interview. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. And then, yeah, that's how it happened.
Amazing. And then when you worked there, how long were you with that
So
company?
for that company, I worked for about almost 8 years. So the first year and a half, I was supporting again all the directors on the Latin American market, and then offering them the products the company had, and like meeting with them and traveling too. By a year and a half, I got transferred to New York for a 6-month assignment, and I stayed for 6 months more, and I ended up like a year and a little bit more in New York. So
Wow.
dealing with the office there, and mainly just like doing all the business development for the company from New York.
Amazing.
That was tough for a Latina coming from the
Oh
Caribbean.
yeah. How was the cold?
That was horrible. The
Yeah.
cold was horrible. Like horrible. Like no, I literally had to come back to Miami todos los meses. I was
Yeah.
dying.
All my friends
Like,
that ever
I
moved to
got
New
sick.
York,
I cannot do this.
All
I
my
know
friends-
it sounds bad, but I mean
they
I
couldn't
suffered.
do it either. I mean, they
I
lasted. A
suffered.
lot of them lasted a year. They're like, I want to move to New York. I want to move to New York. They do one winter in New York, and they're like,
No.
I need to come back.
Yeah, no, one winter. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Not
That's
more
a-
than that.
that's
I
incredible.
got sick. I had to come back to Miami. I don't know how many times.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't understand, like, how do people actually do this?
Yeah.
Like, so many different type of clothes, like so many, temperatures and
Mm-hmm.
weathers. I'm like, no, this is too much. I can't. On the professional side, it was great.
It is, yes.
Amazing. You grew up, I grew up a lot as a professional, meeting a lot of people, also understanding the industry I work with.
Right.
Like, it was a blessing to be there, right? At the same time, I was like, oh, I hate this city.
Yeah.
But again, it's a love and hate relationship
Exactly.
too. Like people, either you love New York or hate New York.
Yeah. It is a love-hate.
Yeah. By the end of probably the end of the year, I was like, I like it here.
That's how I
And
feel
then I
about New
came
York
back, and then I
too.
came back to Miami. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
game over.
I'm not a person that could do the cold very well. Like I like it to experience it, because obviously we don't get it here, right? So it's nice to
Like today,
put
so
the coat
nice.
on and experience that. But to have to do that every day, like I mean, right now I think they're dealing with like 2 feet of snow. Can you imagine?
No, yeah, no,
Like-
no, I can't.
We're here, windows down, cruising.
Yeah,
it's
so nice, and the
it's-
sunshine. Like, hello,
Yeah.
the sun, everything's No.
Absolutely.
So I came back from New York,
Mhm.
and I did Miami for another bit, and then I moved to California. So I lived in San Francisco for a couple of years. That was great. One of the best
San
experiences.
Francisco?
Yes, in San
Wow.
Francisco. Doing the same thing, just business development for the company. I also traveled once a week to San Diego. We had an office in San
Beautiful.
Diego, which was perfect
Yeah.
because it was a perfect mix.
Oh my God, I love
being in
San
San
Diego.
Francisco
Yeah.
and then in the East Bay, and then going down to San Diego for, a week, a month was perfect, honestly.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was a really good time. And then I came back to Miami. So for the past 10 years, I've been in Miami.
Wow. That's amazing. And then when you came back from Miami, what was that transition? Did you
I
start a new
transitioned
job?
for
or-
a new job.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a transition from this company that I spent years. I'm very grateful too, because I met a lot of people there, a lot of mentors, great bosses. I mean, it was great. And I transitioned. I switched jobs, and the new job was here in Miami. So we were ready to come back to Miami, and just define Miami as our new, I guess, headquarters, like home place. Like my
Right.
family was here, so it just
Of
made
course,
sense to come
yeah.
back. And that's what we did. Like in 2015, yes, I came back, and I started a new job with a financial institution. And that's it. I had to travel a lot because I was doing Mexico, Colombia, Peru. I was doing like a lot of markets in Latin America.
Nice.
I had to travel a lot. So I was exhausted,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a pretty good job, and I learned a lot of things in the trust and estate industry. And it was fun too, like traveling and doing all these
course.
things. It's fun, but
Yeah.
you get tired. So
Exactly.
it's like, where's the balance here?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you love going to see all these new places and the thrill of
Same.
getting on the airplane, but there's something
No,
about
but
coming
you're
back and being
exhausted when you,
home.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you come back home, you're like, this is where I want to be.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
No, I totally get that. So no, I think that's amazing, right? It's that path, right, where you don't
Yeah.
really know, but everything just kind of takes care of itself, right?
Yeah.
You obviously did your part doing what you can
Yes.
control,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
Making all the right connections, networking, putting in the time, the
Yeah.
energy into learning and bettering
It's
yourself,
exactly like you said.
right? But it led you to the path
Mm-hmm.
of who you became
Mm-hmm.
today,
Absolutely.
which is
Absolutely.
incredible.
I
So
think a lot about that.
yeah.
Like, wow, how, all those years unfolded up to here.
Right.
Like, I did a lot of
It's
things.
hard to put it into perspective when you're always going through the
Yeah.
motions, right? But
Yeah.
now, when you kind of look back at things, you look back and you're like, wow, look how much
Yes.
I've done, look how much I've
Yes.
accomplished. I didn't even think I would maybe even be doing this,
Uh-huh.
right? And
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
happens to a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where kind of just go through the motion of life, and then when you look
Yeah, I
back
know.
and reflect, you realize
Yeah.
like, wow, look what I did.
Yeah. I mean, hard work
Pays off, yeah.
That's what they
Mhm.
say. It's true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
It definitely does. So
Mm-hmm.
talk to me a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yes, absolutely. So I still work for a global company. So there's two things we do at this big company. We're in 26 jurisdictions in the U.S. We cover mainly the world in terms of countries and cities where we are. But we do two main things. One, we have like a private client line or a private wealth line that we call. So where we serve ultra high net worth families and their family offices and advisors, and we set up trust structures for them. So we act as corporate trustees. We can act also as corporate service provider, depending on what the family needs. And we basically, create those trusts where the family puts their assets and they're protected. Now, there's different reasons why someone would need to do something like this. It could be
course.
tax reasons, it could be asset protection reasons, it could be legacy, it could be like a lot of things, right?
Absolutely.
So we work with, in partnership with, tax attorneys, trust and estate attorneys from the industry. They are the ones drafting the documents.
Okay.
We are the ones being appointed as trustees, and then we deal with the family on a daily basis.
Got it.
So that's one of the business lines that we do on this company. Then on the other business line is more like the institutional corporate business side, where we offer services to corporate entities or financial firms or RIAs or those type of firms where we do fund administration. So we're not managers, we're not managing the fund, we're doing the administration of the fund since
Okay.
its launch until its liquidation or termination. And then because that connects to regulatory and compliance, we can also support those institutions and clients on the regulatory and compliance part. So for example, if you're launching an RIA, then you need to know about compliance. You need to have a compliance officer. You need to know you're going to be registered before the SEC. Like there's a lot of things you need to know. So we offer that services to our clients too. And then we also do a lot of outsourced CFO, which is it's now pretty,
Okay.
it's getting pretty hot out there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So lots of, outsourced services to those firms that need basically everything.
Right.
And then middle office, which is, helping all those clients put in all those capital calls and trades in and everything. And that's like the other business line. So I'm like, I work on both business lines. Like I
Right.
work a lot with the private wealth team. That's my team. And I'm now also shifting a little bit on the CFO middle office
Yeah,
services.
I could see kind of like that fractional CFO,
Correct.
right?
Correct. They
world.
call it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it has evolved.
Correct.
I think a lot of businesses are taking that approach, and across every kind of like executive role. There's fractional
Correct.
CMOs
Correct.
now, CFOs, even COOs, right? Kind of these people
Exactly.
that, hey, we need you for 15, 20 hours a week to really kind of
Exactly.
sit in the business, understand and operate. And it's valuable as a business to have someone like that, right? Because
Yeah.
when you're, the CEO or founder, or whatever that may be as your title within the company, you have so many different hats that you're wearing, right? And
Yes.
you got your hands a little bit of everywhere, but in that weird growth period as a company, you're going to need someone like,
Yeah.
that CFO to really be understanding the dynamics of the
Exactly.
business, understanding, hey, these are growth opportunities, tax benefits that you might be missing, which I think a lot of people, not their
Yeah.
fault, right? Because they're
No.
just so stuck in every other aspect of the business, don't realize that.
Well, that's interesting because that's what we say to clients. It's like, hey, you are the investment mind. We don't do investments, right? We're not in that part of the job. So
Right.
you focus on your investments. We'll take care of the rest. We'll take care of everything. Everything that's, back office, we'll take care of it. You just figure out your investment part. That's
Right.
it. So for them, and it's actually a good model because they outsource a lot of work.
True.
So instead of like hiring sometimes
Exactly.
people, they basically outsource it. So for them, tax-wise, even better, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it works. And then you have a lot of things to do and a lot of things to pay attention to. If you have a big fund, you're launching on, 300, 400, $500 million fund. And guess what? You need to wear a lot of hats, like you say. And it's like, okay, what do you do? What do I do now?
Yeah.
So we kind of support them on every single process since day one.
No, that's interesting, and a ton of value. I guess
Yeah.
for the audience, right, and anyone that's kind of in similar
Mm-hmm.
situations, right. I think for the younger generation, right,
Yeah.
we're maybe not at that stage yet, right? But how do we plan ahead to start thinking that way, right? We may not have assets for a trust yet,
Yeah.
right? But we're looking to build that long-term future and be able to kind of set ourselves up for those levels of success down the line.
Mm.
What would kind of be your advice for someone?
Yeah, I would say that it's never too early, but it's
Hmm.
always too late.
Right.
So just, it doesn't matter if you feel you're 21 or 22, right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I'm too young, I don't have money, whatever. So
Hmm.
first of all, educate yourself. Educate yourself on the financial matters, right? If you are buying a life insurance policy, what does that mean?
Hmm.
If you are putting money away in a, I don't know, cash account or some sort of saving account, is
Right.
it better to put it on a different type of account with a little bit of more, you're going to get a little gain there. It doesn't matter. It's like 5% or whatever
Right.
it is, right? Like, first of all, educate yourself because
Hmm.
it's never too late.
Hmm.
That's like to educate yourself, right? Two, be more proactive than reactive. Like, you have to know what's happening out there.
True.
You need to go out there. You need to do the work.
Hmm.
You need to meet people in the industry, whatever industry you are in, right? And you just need to be proactive. Like, think and then act. Ask the questions, look for help, all
Hmm.
those things. It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter. I mean, I know that people are like, no, I'm too young, I don't have money, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
can start with $1 investing
Exactly.
if you want to start investing today,
Hmm.
right? There's lots of places out there online that you can start investing. Just start, do
Yes.
something, and just get well informed before doing it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would say to the younger generation. And
No,
always
absolutely.
make sure that it doesn't matter what you do financially, there's always going to be a consequence legally. So make sure that whatever decision you take financially, doesn't matter what it is,
Hmm.
there's always going to be a consequence legally speaking. So always make that connection. So for me, financial and legal industries must be like connected hand by hand.
Absolutely.
Because everything happens together.
Hmm. And can you elaborate a little bit on that? Right. Obviously, I understand the connection, right, where there's always going to be some sort
Yeah.
of legal component attached,
Mhm.
especially financially. But what exactly legally
Yeah,
should,
let me say
people be
like very
prepared for?
simple
Yeah.
example. Let's say you open tomorrow investment account, I don't know, in Fidelity, and this is not paid,
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
advertising, but I don't know, you go and you open an account and you start investing and you're like, buying stocks, shares, whatever, right? ETFs, whatever it is. And you're the sole owner of the account, right? Something happens to you. It translates to the legal
Understood.
side,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
If you don't have like a specific power of attorney, if you don't have
Right.
like, for example, a will or testament, like
Mhm.
what happens
Right.
legally is that whoever is your family, your heirs are going to be going through processes legally in the US or in Miami, let's say.
Right.
So those are the things you always need to
Yeah.
think, right?
Mhm.
Same thing when your parents or someone in your family buys real estate. If that person is a US person, then some rules apply. If that person is a foreign person, let's say a Colombian from your girlfriend's family, come
Right.
here, they buy a beautiful apartment in Brickell under their own names, guess what? They have tax consequence
Right.
if they pass away,
Hmm.
even though they're not US people.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
So all those things, you need to know that when you're making an investment, there's something legal connected to it. Something's going to happen eventually. So make sure you connect the dots on that, and make sure that when you're doing the investment, make sure that there's, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
If you, I don't know, falling sick, if you fall in any incapacity, that happens too, physical, mental incapacities, right? What happens? Then if someone passes away, like the owner of the assets passes away,
Right.
well, the Florida state has a solution for you, but maybe you don't want what the Florida state
Exactly,
says, right?
yeah.
So you're like, okay, I'll do a will, or I'll do a trust, or what do I do?
Mhm.
And then if you don't have a will, then your family has to go to probate. So that's court, that's hiring a lawyer, and it's a lot of money and it's legal. So everything you
Sure.
do, there's a legal consequence there.
And then let's say that exact scenario. Where do you all come into the fold in that process?
I'm in the
right?
middle.
All right.
Which is the funny thing, because I'm not the tax attorney or the trust
Right.
and estate attorney drafting documents.
Mhm.
But
you're working
I
in
am not
tandem
doing
with
the
them?
investments, because I'm not telling the client, hey, buy Apple as opposed to Amazon. I'm not doing that.
Right.
But I work with all of those parties, and I'm in the middle making sure that whatever assets are in trust, they're well kept. As trustees, you have a fiduciary duty.
Right.
So first of all, we're regulated, right, by the Division of Banking. And then you have a fiduciary duty to make sure that whatever you keep there, you're keeping it safe. And you're doing everything from the admin side. So you take care of that trust assets with your fiduciary duty, right? So even though I'm not telling that guy the advisor where to invest, and I'm not telling the attorney what to draft. I work with them. So I see their work.
Understood.
And I work with the families, and I bring the families and I say, okay, let's talk to your tax attorney. Let's talk to someone, I don't know, your financial advisor, and let's tell him this is the way we're going to do it. And I kind of like put together everything so we're all on the same page. So you need to work like with a very holistic team.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
That's
not one-
that's
yeah.
it's like,
which is good, which is great.
A person here, a person here, a person
Exactly.
here, right? Where everybody's assisting you, right? It's a team effort at the end of the day. And it should be that way, because whether you're operating a business, you know, your life is a business as well, right? And it needs to be operated in the correct manner.
And there's no such thing as you can do it all.
Right.
That's not
exactly.
true.
No,
you have to, you know, find the right people, and that's why everyone specializes in something.
Exactly.
And that's the reason. You just go to a specialist, ask for help, pay for it, and have your solution.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's amazing. And I think that's something that I think the next generation is becoming more aware of and more conscious of, right? Is understanding I can only do so much, and what are the resources that I need to be able to elevate my life to the next level, right? Financially, it's the same thing. Like if someone hires a personal trainer, right, for their wellness, right, you need that coach for your finances and the future of your well-being, right, across every single facet of your life. So I think it's interesting that this new generation is starting to become a little bit more conscious of that. Yeah. Right. I look at my mom and my grandparents, like those were not discussions that were being had.
No, and it's actually studied. Like those conversations were not held on a table.
No, absolutely
and
not.
That's why there's a lot of stats out there that shows like why men are more confident than women in financial decisions, and why women do not feel as confident as men on financial decisions. Now that's changing though.
Of course.
But if you see back in the days, those were not conversations you had on the table. And I mean, it makes sense in a way, because imagine immigration families coming to a country where they had nothing and they had to start from zero. Like, what conversations are you going to have on a table where you're exhausted, probably doing 2-3 jobs a day and trying to get a little bit of money to survive?
Basically,
it's right. That's what happened. That's the story of Miami, right? People coming from Cuba or other countries. So that's the story. So how are we doing that conversation? It's difficult, right? But that's evolved. Thank God, right?
100%.
So now, I mean, that's the other thing I think we need to be very proactive. Yes. Again, parents have to have conversation with their children about money. This is not a taboo thing. You need to explain to them, this is what it is. This is something you need. This is you need to be aware, and this is how it happened. The wealth. I mean, people, we work with families that we work with generation 4, generation 5, sometimes even generation 6. And it's just spectacular to see how that wealth has been, from generation to generation.
Those are families that have done it well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, okay, what do you do?
Right.
Right? And then trusts are always involved, most likely, right? Yeah. So you're like, okay, this is a good thing. Right. So the good thing is that you have to be transparent too. Yeah. With the families too, and with your kids. If you want to have a nice, conversation, you have to be transparent. You have to tell your kids about money. You need to understand that they are learning too. Yeah. And if you're not giving them the tools, it's the same thing with the new generation. Yeah. Like, how are they supposed to know? You don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly. 100%. So, I mean, I look back and I'm like, wow, I wish I knew a lot more of this, back then, right? I did well for myself in college. I was also forced to grow up very early, right? I mean, I was already working at 15, 16 years old, making money.
Me too. I started at 15.
Like having to make money. And, obviously my parents helped where they could, but come 18, it was like, I was not getting anything. It was like, if I don't make money, I don't have anything, right? So I had to figure that out, and I did well of making the money, right? Especially for an 18-year-old still in college, but finding ways to be creative and find ways to make money. That I did well, right? And I think that's like the Latino.
Yeah. I think it's a survival mode. You're like, I need to survive.
But one thing I didn't know how to do was save money.
Nobody
because
told you
no
how.
one told me. It's like, you make it, great. No one told me that you got to make it and then save it as well.
Exactly. It's not only making it, it's saving it too, because for rainy days, right?
You're only setting yourself up for that much more success, right? Yeah. I mean, imagine even just putting 20% of my college income into a high yield savings account at the time, or even investing it a little bit more aggressively, like in an Apple or an Amazon, right? And saying,
back in the days, imagine.
Can you imagine?
Imagine.
Right? Like those are, but no one's even having that. And then you look at a lot of these, what they call old money, right? Especially here in Miami, because Miami's kind of one of these cities that has boomed. But those are families that just did things right and well. They didn't.
At the moment,
They
yeah.
took advantage of the systems that were in place, right? They followed protocol as to what you should be doing with your
Yeah.
money, and they may have not been wealthy at the time, but now here they
But
are.
now they are.
You know, they've maybe owned their home since the 60s, 70s,
They
right?
took advantage of the interest
Then
rates
bought
back in the
more
days,
property,
mortgage. Yeah.
right? Bought land, invested their money,
Yes.
started businesses, and now they're the ones reaping
And
the
those are
benefits
the
of
baby
it.
boomers that nowadays is the wealthiest generation in
Exactly.
history in
Yep.
the US.
Exactly.
Because they started back in the days, like in the 60s, I guess.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
they started making money. And now they're the wealthiest generation.
Absolutely.
And it's impressive. It's
Yeah.
really impressive because I think they were the ones who started like the movement. I don't think they were ready enough to have conversation with their children,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But they started the movement, and then probably a younger generation was like, okay, let's have this conversation with my kids.
I think part of it too is they don't really understand yet what the
Yeah, I
benefits
agree.
of it is, right?
Yeah.
Now they're looking at what they did 20 years later,
Exacto.
and they're like, okay,
hicimos
yeah, you need to
plata.
do this too, you know?
Totally,
I
totally.
think for us, like
Sí.
it's being able to now educate the next generation and preparing them.
Yeah.
Obviously, things change,
Yes,
right? You know,
there's
from
evolution
generation to
everywhere, yeah.
generation. So there's always a willing to adapt, but at the end of the day, a lot of the same systems are in
Yes,
place.
and something too, like younger generations now, they have more resources than we did.
True.
Which is something they need to take advantage of. And I think they do.
Yes.
Right? Also, I think they need to surround themselves with, good circle of people or community. Surround yourself with a circle or of people that you can go and have nice conversations, right? Like deep conversations. Like you can have conversations about money. You can have conversations about wealth. You can have conversations about everything, and you're not gonna feel like, oh, I'm left out.
Exactly.
Look for those circles.
For sure.
There's so many communities out
Very
there.
true.
So many. You would be surprised. Just Google and go, and you'll find people that are gonna be in your same page, that are also trying to learn, that are also looking to see like, how am I gonna be investing? Even, this guy should be educating us on Bitcoin and stuff,
Yeah,
like we are like
100%. I mean,
we're like
everyone was
we're
talking
like the viejo aquí, right? We're viejo. So
Yeah.
it's like you come here and tell me how I invest in BTC
Exactly.
now.
It's true. Yeah. And I think that, that whole cryptocurrency
Exactly.
was one of those things that everyone was like, what is it? But
And who were the first to understand it?
the younger generation. Yeah. Because there was more.
Because they're
in line
completely
with-
digital too.
Exactly. They're like,
We're like-
I could do everything right here.
Exacto.
And that was it for them. It was
And
like, I
they're
can figure it
digital
out.
since they were born.
Yes.
Our generations went in the transition from analog to digital.
Yep.
So
That's
we're
true.
we're like in the middle,
Yeah.
and we get the digital thing, and we
Exactly.
get but we're not like pros like them. I see
100%.
my brother. I'm like they're so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like he was born in the digital era.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's different.
The internet the internet wasn't even around that long ago. Like there was a point where
Exactly.
dial-up was a thing and all these things were
Dial-up, Skype, and like, remember those? Yeah.
and it's crazy to think about how much has evolved over the
Same.
course of the last 15 years or
Yeah.
so, and how rapid it's changed and how continuously rapid it's going to change. Obviously, like AI is now like the
exactly, for
hottest
example.
conversation right
Yeah.
now, and we've just like touched the surface of what that's going to
Exactly.
look
We don't
like.
even know what's down there.
Absolutely.
We're trying. And in the
100%.
corporate world, you try a little bit more because you need to understand. But
Yeah.
again, they are the ones.
Exactly,
that know
the
more
next
than us.
generation.
Yes.
And that's that, when you talk about that hiring people and bringing in people of what they're good at, right?
Yes.
The young generation will be the ones to come in,
Yes.
kind of lead this AI boom. Yet you need kind of more of that, what's the word? Kind of the, original ways of thinking,
Yeah.
right? And the more practical
Yes.
ways of applying some
Absolutely.
of this, right?
And
Because
have
you need to
perspective.
find that balance.
And have that perspective too. Like not be, square-minded, like be open-minded. Try to
Yes.
like I would love to have a 26-year-old guy giving me a class on Bitcoin.
Right.
Like why not? You
Yeah.
know, like tell me. I invest in Bitcoin, I do.
Yeah.
But I need more information.
Exactly.
Like what else should I be doing? Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I'm not buying the right stable coin. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I think
Am I
I do.
missing something here?
Maybe I'm missing something. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Right.
So okay, bring me that 25-year-old guy and
Mm-hmm.
tell me what I have to do.
Absolutely.
So they need to also be aware that they are very knowledgeable on things we are not.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
just go out there and tell us what to do.
No, yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
It is a phenomenon that I think we all live in, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how everybody plays a role
Yep.
in it. But
Yep.
something that you brought up that I thought was interesting that I wanted to ask you, right? You talked about kind of like how back in the day, females were not involved in a lot of these conversations. So for you, like now being one a Latina, but also Latina, female in the
Yeah.
in the space, like what does that mean to you? Like how impactful is that to you, and would you recommend, someone that's in your space, Latina, that wants to
Yeah.
get into something like this?
It means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me. I'm very proud of what I've done, to be honest, and of who I am here in this country. I had a lot of good, again, advice and, family and friends around me that kind of guided me in the process. And I grew up with three brothers. So that was good for me because they gave me perspective.
Right.
And they were like sitting down to me and saying, okay, you need to do this. This is the way you have to buy a car, not lease a car the first years, just buy it.
Right.
Cheap car.
Exactly,
So
not
I
a new
drove
car.
I drove
Yeah.
a cheap car for years. But guess what? My insurance was $40.
Right.
And everyone was going into crazy, very expensive leases.
Which is the Miami.
Which
way
is
of
the
doing
Miami.
things.
It's fine. I mean, that's fine. But
People do it.
my brother
Right.
was like, "Don't do it." I'm like,
Yeah.
and I follow his advice. So in a way, I am who I am because I had those, people
Right.
guiding me through the process. So I feel proud that I heard them because you have to listen to.
Yeah.
You also have to listen. If you
Yes.
if you want to, do something or create something, look for help. If you want to be better at something, ask for help. So that's what I did. So I'm proud. I'm happy with what I'm done, to be honest. And I want to be someone who also pays back to whoever is coming into this country and not understanding the process. Because it's not easy. It's difficult. If you're coming from Latin American country, completely different. If you're coming from Europe, it could be in some ways similar, right? In some ways, no. But it's just like, I'm proud to be, that person, and I'm happy to sit down with whoever is lost in the process and just tell them, hey, this is a way you can do things. Just have
Right.
perspective, be patient, work hard, because something good is going to happen to you. Like, always keep pushing, always. Because if you stop, it's like game over.
Yep.
And
That's
it is
true.
what it is. And that's a U.S.
Yeah.
grind,
Yeah.
That's what people,
Right. Which, I think there's something interesting in all of that, right? Where it's like what America has been built off of, right?
Yeah.
Is this work ethic, and being a capitalist country obviously provides a massive level of opportunity, but it's like it's this never ending.
yes. And then you think, when is it too much?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Because you hear about these countries like Europe, right? And
Yeah.
where it's maybe a more laxed way
Correct.
of living, right? But here we are. We have some of the most wealth in the world,
Yes,
right?
we
And
have
that's
them.
because of the systems that are in place. And I
Yes.
think at the end of the day, here in America, you could pick and choose how you want to live.
I agree.
You live your life. There is essentially no untapped
Agree.
opportunity here.
Agree.
Right? The sky is
The limit.
not even the limit.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
Tesla's,
So, yeah.
there is no limit.
There is
right?
now it doesn't limit.
There's no limit.
We'll be in Mars next year.
Exactly.
Like,
right?
having a
and
vacation.
I think that's the way. That's what makes America so
Yeah.
special. Is the amount of opportunity and the
I agree.
uncapped opportunity that is
Agree.
here. But you also have that opportunity to say, hey, like I am fine just making my salary, taking advantage of the 401ks
Yes.
and the
Yes,
benefits and the
exactly.
insurance policies that are in place for me, and living a nice, modest
That's
lifestyle.
fine.
Because that exists too.
Yeah.
Where I think the disconnect is everybody thinks they have to go and be Jeff Bezos, or they have to
Okay,
be Elon
no,
Musk, right?
no.
And because that's what's I guess sexified. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a word, right?
Yeah,
right,
could
but
be.
that's what America is all about. It's like you could go be Jeff Bezos, which it is, right?
Go
You
be,
can,
yeah,
but
Elon
you also
Musk
can
or-
go be the respectable guy that owns the car shop across the street.
Absolutely.
Making
and
a
give
modest
jobs to a lot of people out
Exactly.
there. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think that is spoken enough or highlighted or celebrated.
That's a good
enough,
point.
right? I think that's where maybe the disconnect is. It's like America's great for the untapped opportunity.
Yes.
But you don't need to go for it if you want to, right? I think that ambition is always
Yeah.
going to take you further and further and keep you motivated. But also realize, hey, you can make a great modest salary,
Yeah.
run a small family-owned business, like you said, employ maybe 2-3 people,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're taking advantage of what the
Exactly.
systems are in place here.
I mean, good thing or good news is that you can choose
Exactly.
because you have the options.
Exactly.
And you have alternatives, and you have opportunities, and like you said, on top opportunities out there. Maybe someone looks at something at you and you're good for this, and
Right.
they come and say, hey, why not do this?
Exactly.
You don't have to be the next Jeff Bezos. You don't have to be the next
Yeah.
Elon Musk or
Right.
I don't know, Facebook guy, whatever. You
Right,
don't
right.
have to. Just
Exactly.
be yourself. And that's something too, as a Latina and as an immigrant, sometimes you don't know how to act or react, or like, okay, should I do this? Should I do that? And then a couple of, not long ago, I realized I have to be myself.
Right.
Like, that's where your magic is.
Right.
You have to be you, because everyone else, like they say, is taken, right?
Exactly.
But I mean,
It's
it's
the
like
truth,
everyone
yeah.
else is taken. So just be yourself. And that's
Absolutely.
like, that hit me like not long ago. I'm like, yes, I have to be me because guess what? Somebody else, it's somebody else.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's what makes you unique.
Exactly. So just take advantage of it, trust yourself, do the process, do the work. But I mean, you know that you can choose and there's different opportunities for everyone.
Absolutely.
And there's on top opportunities, like you said.
Yeah.
So I agree 100%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have one last question
Yes.
for you. And it's kind of piggybacking off kind of both, right? We talked about the opportunities here in America and then, kind of like this estate planning and kind of planning for, the next generation. But in this process, right, cost of living has also gone up in the United States,
Yes.
right? So how have you seen it kind of evolve when it comes into like estate planning and kind of like the next generation, knowing that cost of living is more expensive in the States?
That's a good question because it depends on who do you ask, right? Like, people like us, mortals, I guess, we feel it more.
Yeah.
Because, first time ever we felt inflation in Miami for the past, 4 or 5 years after COVID.
Right.
And then if you ask wealthy families, I mean, they might tell you they feel it too. And that means they have to be a little bit more creative or maybe more proactive on investments because they want more money and they want, more gains and return of investments.
Right.
So they're like maybe looking for more opportunities on investing and maybe going into AI, maybe going into all those new projects.
Right.
So you kind of see that they diversify a lot, which is good, right?
Yeah.
So they go, it's not only the financial world in terms of like public market, stock exchange. It's also like the private equity world, right? Like I want to invest in private equity. Like everybody knows it's different. Everybody knows it takes time. It's different type of investment. But guess what? They're maybe doing it for their kids or maybe they're thinking of the legacy. Exactly, long-term opportunities. And then diversify on real estate and stuff. So I think is an opportunity for wealthy people, to be honest. Like they start looking for new options, right? Because they know they have the money, but they also know that it's less money. Like their mindset is different, right? So they're like, okay, I have the money, that's fine, but why am I losing money because of the inflation or because of this or because of that? So you have to take the money and invest it. Because if you don't do it, then you're losing money.
Exactly.
Just not doing anything, you're losing the money anyway because you got inflation,
Right.
So that's one point. And then I feel that for us, I mean, mortals again, los mortales, we have to be more aware of savings. We have to do our health checks in terms of financial health checks. We have to sit down, do the work, maybe do like a nice, night date with your spouses and whatever and sit down and say where can we save, what can we do, where can we invest, like those type of exercises. They call it admin nights nowadays. It's like you sit down with a glass of wine or whatever, but you're having those conversations and you're having those conversations
that just should be had at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Whether things are going great, things are not going so great, finding a way to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable, because it's very easy to kind of and then all of a sudden, like you said, you got to be proactive, not reactive.
Proactive all the way. And something I see about this, millionaires or billionaires, we know they see opportunities where we don't see them.
Right.
Which is amazing. So we are thinking about inflation. We are thinking about, horrible things, whatever, right? Financially speaking. These guys are like, thinking about, okay, this is what I can do.
Right.
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring someone, I'm going to do this, I'm going to mix it out. So that's how we have to think too.
True.
We have to
shift the perspective, shift the way.
Absolutely.
Where there's a problem, there's an opportunity.
Exactly.
Right? And instead of like being like, oh my God,
like freaking out, like this is too expensive.
Right.
Yes, it is. It is. But guess what? Let's do something about it. Let's not just whine about it.
Exactly.
I mean, you can choose. Again,
absolutely.
You choose.
Absolutely. No, amazing. That's incredible advice and insight into it. And then my last, more fun question.
Okay.
You've been San Fran, New York, obviously Venezuela. But what is it that makes Miami so special?
Wow. The melting pot of Latin people.
yeah, that's the damn sure.
I mean, for me it reminds me a lot of Venezuela in a way. It's very tropical.
Yes.
Which I love. I love the beach. I have to be close to La Playa because, I love to go to the beach. I think Miami is unique because it's a city that is still growing. If you go to other cities in the U.S., they're already there. They've been there for 250 years, right?
True.
Miami, it's a really new city. Yeah. There's so many things to do in here. So many opportunities that we haven't even seen, right? Yeah. And we're not even there yet.
No, not even close.
I love the tropical vibes about it. I love that we have the melting pot of Latinos, which is great. Sometimes I don't like it when I'm driving a 95, right? But,
Right.
you know, when I'm here, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're cool, we're all the same, I love it, right? Even though we come from different backgrounds. But we have that thing that,
It's just a connection. Yeah.
that
We
other
understand.
cultures don't have. And I love that, you know, Americans come here, gringos come here, they're like, what is this? Like, this is not even the US. You know, they don't even feel they're in the US,
Right.
which is funny.
It is true.
Everybody speaks Spanish. It's just like a different, you know, thing.
It's the
I
United
like that
States,
too.
and
It's
then
so
it's like
unique.
a U.S. Caribbean in Miami.
Exactly.
In one.
It is unique.
Yeah.
I think it has its own like Magic City, like they call it, right?
Wow, yeah.
And I think we haven't seen it all yet.
No, I agree. I think COVID, expedited
showed us,
the
yeah.
inevitable of what Miami was
Agreed.
going ahead to. And to your point, we're just touching the surface of what Miami
Exactly.
can be and will be. Obviously, you have the international component to it
Yes.
from Latin America, Europe, the Caribbean,
Yeah, coming
all
here,
that,
investment.
all that opportunity that's there. And then just all the influx of opportunity from the United
Yeah.
States, right? Being able to
Exactly.
tap into the opportunities that.
But you
that
know
will
what's
come from-
cool? Seeing the evolution of a city where you live. Like,
yeah.
you know, try to think 20 years ago.
Right.
How was it?
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't even recognize the city.
Yeah. Let's say Brickell Avenue.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm always astonished when I'm going down the 836 and I
I
look towards
know.
downtown and I'm like,
Exactly.
I don't remember that many buildings being there.
The skyline,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's so, I love that. I
Yeah.
love the fact that I saw it 26 years ago.
Especially like coming from like New York and then you go to Miami, you're like,
Uh-huh.
oh, okay. I see what's happening here.
I love it
Yeah.
because you see the city growing.
Yeah.
Like you're actually seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
And I love that. You go to New York and everything's already there, which is cool though.
Right.
But it's already there. I mean,
Exactly.
the Brooklyn Bridge is already there.
Right,
No,
yeah,
you,
no,
you
there's
never
no-
saw
there's no more
someone building
growing
the
in New
bridge,
York.
right?
Yeah.
You are seeing here people
True.
building the bridge.
That is true.
Right?
That is very true.
And I think that's cool.
That is cool. Yeah. I think we could say that now, but when you're sitting on the
Sí, no
traffic
te das
on 95,
You're
people are gonna be like,
hating it.
I hate that bridge. Why the hell are they building that thing?
Why are they doing construction every single day? And at
Why
night.
have they been building
and
the
at
Palmetto
night.
since year 2000?
Exactly. No, yo sé, pero when it takes that
But,
too.
exactly.
Takes that too.
It's the growing pains
Sí,
of a city.
sí, it's the
right?
growing pains,
And
sí.
I think
Totalmente.
once we get through it, we'll be like, holy cow, look what Miami's become.
Sí, I love that.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
That's awesome.
Me
Well,
encanta.
Anabella, thank you so much
No,
for
thank
taking the
you.
time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much.
And I know we were talking offline. Maybe we have a nighttime segment.
Yes,
with you
we should
coming
do
soon.
it with tequeños.
Café, ron y tequeños.
Tequeños y ron.
Yeah,
Sí, pero
I
en
like
ron
it.
venezolano. Claro.
Está
Claro.
bien. Well, thank you guys for
Thank you.
tuning
Gracias
in.
a ti.
Gracias,
Thank you.
Anabella, for being here. And as always, enjoy your cafecito, enjoy your croquetas, and we'll see you on the next one.